You can't make this shit up. I certainly didn't. Jesus goes to Hogwarts. Double disclaimer! I do not own Jesus or any part associated of the Bible fandom, nor do I claim to own any part of the Harry Potter world. These books belong to their authors, God and J.K. Rowling. I am not trying to steal from them. Thanks, guys. Young Jesus was sitting by the side of the road, feeling gloomy. It had been a bad day. He tried preaching in the marketplace, but no one would listen. Then his father came and dragged him back to the workshop. Jesus hated carpentering, but he worked dutifully until his father told him he could leave. He was tired and in a bad mood. "Hello there, boy," a deep voice said. Jesus looked up, startled. A tall, thin man with a long white beard and long, crooked nose stood in front of him. The man was wearing purple robes embroidered with silver moons and stars, and horseshoes. "Who are you?" asked Jesus, staring at the man. "I am Albus Dumbledore," the old man said, beaming at Jesus. "I've come to rescue you." "Rescue me?" Jesus said blankly. "What do you mean?" The old man smiled. "Well, Jesus, you're pretty unhappy, young man, aren't you? According to our intelligence, you're the only boy with magic in these parts." "Magic?" Jesus stammered. "I don't have magic. Magic is a tool of the devil." "Nonsense," Dumbledore said cheerfully. "Of course you have magic, and at Hogwarts we'll teach you how to use it." "But—" "Come on!" Dumbledore shouted, grabbing Jesus' arm. Before Jesus could tear away, he felt a yank behind his navel, and the world was dissolving in a whirl of color. Jesus woke up in an unfamiliar bed. "Where am I?" he asked blankly, sitting up. A plump woman wearing blue robes bustled to his bedside. "Drink this, dear. You'll need your strength," she said briskly, forcing a cup of glowing orange liquid into his hand. Jesus drank obediently and set the cup aside. "Where am I?" he repeated. "Lie back down, dear. You can ask questions later." "Oh, you're awake!" Dumbledore, now in bottle green robes, came striding into Jesus' room. "That was a long journey, my boy. My boy." "What's going on? What sorcery is this?" Jesus yelled. "Well, now, we brought you forward through time, Jesus." Jesus could only stare. "We're going to teach you how to use your magic." "I don't have magic. Magic is a tool of the devil," Jesus interrupted, but Dumbledore just plowed on. "You see, you're the only one with the power to withstand the evil one." "I don't understand." Dumbledore leaned down, looking quite serious. "Satan is loose in the world, Jesus, and his name is Voldemort." Dun dun dun! It's only been like 2 minutes. Fuck it, let's go to the next chapter. I was going to end it, but, who gives a shit? That's the same disclaimer from the first one. Okay. Jesus had never imagined that such a city could exist. He had seen more people in his journey through London than he had ever seen in his entire life. Most of them were staring avidly at him, and Hagrid, who made quite a sight in the underground, being twice as tall as a normal man. Jesus thought of himself as a calm and level-headed, but the underground had certainly unsettled him first. The sight of a huge grey dragon roaring into the station made him jump back in alarm, even though Hagrid had told him what to expect. Jesus spent the trip sneaking looks at his fellow passengers, all of whom were dressed in the most bizarre array of clothing he'd ever seen. They finally got off the train, and Jesus walked into the London streets in a state of awe. He was so busy goggling that he walked 10 feet alone before he noticed Hagrid had stopped. "Come on then, Jesus," Hagrid said, leading the way. That was a terrible fucking accent. The small and shabby pub. The sign read, "The Leaky Cauldron." Jesus followed with some trepidation. The wizened old innkeeper waved at Hagrid as they passed through. Some of the witches and wizards seated at tables waved as well. Hagrid greeted them all as they crossed into the main room. A small back door opened into a scruffy alley. Jesus watched curiously as Hagrid carefully counted the bricks in the wall with a furtively tapped one with his pink umbrella. These sentences are interesting. To Jesus' astonishment, the gate formed in the wall, and the sign above it read, "Diagon Alley." On the other side of the gate was the most fascinating street he had ever seen. He wished he could stop to examine displays of magical instruments as Hagrid led him along. Hagrid, it seemed, was in a hurry, and Jesus didn't have much time to poke around, as Hagrid had brought him a cauldron, a set of basic potion ingredients, dragon hide, all the stuff you need to go to fucking school. That's what we're doing here. Anyway. "Here's where we get your wand, Jesus!" I really am not good at that accent, but fuck it, it's funny. Hagrid said, thumping Jesus on the shoulder so hard that Jesus' knees wobbled. "Only place for wands, Ollivanders." It actually is spelled out like that, too. That's not a joke. A bell tinkled as it... Tinkled. A bell... It does say tinkled. I thought I read that wrong. A bell tinkled as they let themselves in. Hagrid sat down on the single spindly stool, which creaked ominously. Jesus stood nervously. They didn't have long to wait before Mr. Ollivander appeared from behind the rows of shelves. Mr. Ollivander had large, pale eyes that gleamed disconcertingly.
"Ah, young Jesus," Ollivander said. "Dumbledore's written about you. Stand still now."
This is hurting my throat. Jesus stood still as a tape measure whirred about him, measuring him. Ollivander scribbled down a few notes.
"That will do,"
Ollivander said, and the tape measure dropped lifeless to the floor. Ollivander disappeared among the shelves and reappeared a moment later with a tall stack of boxes.
"Give this one a wave,"
he said, handing Jesus a short wooden rod. Jesus no more than lifted it when Ollivander snatched it back and gave him another. He swished wands for several minutes, feeling increasingly stupid, before Ollivander, with an odd expression on his face, took down a box on the very top shelf. Jesus swished the wand, and a shower of red and gold shot out of the end. Ollivander clapped his hands.
"Ah, well done, but curious, very curious."
"What's curious?" Jesus asked.
"It's strange that you should be destined for that wand, when its brother, why, its brother belongs to none other than the Dark Lord himself."
Jesus looked nervously at his wand. Quarter of an hour later, he found himself standing on a stool? Oh, hold on. Standing on a stool in Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, as an elderly witch pinned robes to him. A pale blonde boy was standing on a stool next to him. "Hogwarts, too," the boy drawled lazily. Okay, yeah. "Yes," said Jesus. "Know what house you'll be in yet?" No. "My family's all been in Slytherin. Imagine if you got put in Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you?" Jesus said, feeling kind of stupid. He'd been living at Hogwarts for the last week, but so far he hadn't learned much about its houses or classes. He'd been having enough problems trying to learn what was going on in the modern world. The witch with the measuring tape bustled off to fetch something from the back, and the pale boy leaned over conspiratively. "So, are you a follower?" he whispered.
"Am I a what?"
"You know, a follower of the Dark Lord," the pale boy hissed. He pulled something out of the collar of his robe. It was a medallion in the shape of a goat skull with a serpent coming out of its mouth. Jesus stared at the boy in horror. He was spared from answering by return of the other witch. I'm not reading well. Who cheerfully ordered them off the stools and presented them both with bundles of new robes. Jesus stumbled out of the store, clutching the parcels of robes. Hagrid was nowhere in sight. He set off in the direction of the Leaky Cauldron pub, hoping to find him. It soon became apparent that Jesus was lost. Somehow he'd wandered off the main street and into a shady-looking alley. The shops here had gruesome window displays featuring shrunken heads, grim-looking spell books, and a plenitude of bats and other unclean animals. It was so bad that your narrator almost got sick. Jesus walked slowly through the winding street, becoming steadily more and more alarmed. An old witch holding a tray of dried lizards leered at him. A wild-looking warlock glared at him suspiciously. Growing desperate, Jesus decided to try and retrace his steps. He turned around and walked smack into a tall wizard wearing bright purple robes. He staggered, nearly falling over. The wizard caught his arm and hauled him to his feet. Jesus shook his head to clear and stared in astonishment. The purple-robed wizard was not alone. Standing behind him were 6 more witches and wizards, all wearing bright purple robes and stern expressions. They're also wearing enormous purple bonnets in the shape of hippopotamuses' heads.
"Thanks, who are you?"
"We," said the leader gravely, "are the hippopotami." Jesus could only stare, lost for words. "Come, young savior," said the leader of the hippopotami, taking Jesus' arm. "You are in grave danger." One by one, the hippopotami lowered their hats as the ring of purple hippos closed in on him, evil twinkles in their eye. Jesus felt a twinge of dread. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we're going to leave this as a cliffhanger. So like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more of, this. Okay, bye.